Hey guys, welcome back to a brand new sports debate video. So for today's NBA video, we're going to be discussing the recent events that have been going around this season and also the last couple of seasons with players sitting out. So this started to pick up a little more steam just a couple of days ago when the Nets and Sixers were playing on a nationally televised game. And this game was big. One, it was nationally televised, and two, it was a battle for the first seed in the Eastern Conference. And the Sixers and the Nets, who knows? They could even tie at the end of the year, but the Sixers are going to have a tiebreaker now that they beat the Nets. So it was a huge game with a lot of playoff implications and seedings on the line. And the Nets, they didn't play Kevin Durant, who played 27 minutes the day before and dropped 31 points, and they didn't play Kyrie Irving the last couple of minutes of the game. And not just that, Kyrie Irving has been missing a lot of games this season because of personal reasons. And obviously, the load management has been going around with Kawhi Leonard, and many other players are also taking a part of that. So lots of players are sitting out, and it's been a topic of conversation now in the NBA. So we're gonna go to Dash first, and then we'll go to Jared, and we'll see what their thoughts are on this situation. So Dash.
Okay, first things first, I want to make very clear that I don't really watch the NBA. I have just heard about this. I watched a few games where load management, but the NBA is not my forte. But I do know sports, and I do know that these athletes make a ton of money, like more money than most people see in multiple generations. And to sit out is unfair to the team, to the league, and also to the people who are spending their hard-earned money to go to these games. Imagine you pay good money to go to the Nets 76ers game, and then half the team isn't playing. The stars that you want to see, that you pay to see, aren't playing. That just pisses me off because regular workers, regular employees, they can't just say, "Oh, I'm not going to go to work today." They and not face consequences. The NBA and management on these teams needs to start pushing back against this because it's not good for the league, it's not good for the teams, and most importantly, which most of the athletes say, most of the players say they care about most, it's not good for the fans.
Right. So, although I understand where you're coming from with how much money they make, I actually just maybe to change it to the MLB real quick. Trevor Bauer has faced a lot of mental health issues, depression, anxiety, many other things, and he's actually talked a lot about it. I actually have a tweet pulled up here from him where he talks about anxiety on MLB Network Radio, and he tweets, "Seems like a good time to post this episode to all the people I mentioned that seem to think a number in a bank account means athletes have no problems. That think we should all just shut up and play. That blast us when we show vulnerability at all. You should try to listen to this." Now, I think there should be some sort of line maybe where you decide whether it's really worth it or not to play. They are making a ton of money, and people are, like you said, going to watch these players play, and they're paying their own money, and they might not even know that these athletes are sitting out. Right? They could buy their tickets hoping to see an athlete, and they decide the day of to not play. But if it's for something like mental health, or they're in, I guess not really injury because you're not taking off your own time for injury, you're going to be out by your team staff, but something like mental health, I think it's important to really care for the MLB, or not MLB, just any pro athlete's mental health, because they do go through a lot, mostly physically, but I'm sure there is some mental aspect that they have pounding on them with how important sometimes their play could be, or their game could be, and they could lose a championship off of one bad play that they ended up making, and it seems like it's all their fault. And there's tons of fans who are just gonna, blast them for doing something like that. So I do think there has to be some sort of line drawn between whether or not they should be allowed to sit out based on how they feel. I know a lot of times the reasoning isn't disclosed. Usually it's personal reasons, so there's never really a way to decide, I guess, whether or not the people, or I guess the team, really feels that they should be taking out. But stuff like load management, like Kawhi Leonard, doesn't seem reasonable to me because almost every single other NBA player is playing all these games. Some are even playing similar minutes to Kawhi Leonard. I understand he's a superstar and plays a lot of minutes and works very hard, but players like LeBron James are playing similar minutes, and you haven't really heard LeBron complaining about load management and stuff like that. So I really...
And LeBron's older.
And LeBron's older, right. So I think there's some instances that it is all right and others that it really isn't. Shivam?
Yeah, yeah, I have to agree with you. Like I was in the middle here. Like there's some reasons, like obviously you said mental health issues that are perfectly fine. That you can take a day off or two. Like for example, I know Carl Anthony Towns, he missed a game against the Nets because of personal reasons, and it was a 1 year anniversary of his mother's passing. So I mean, there's obviously certain reasons where yes, it is completely fine to put your family and your health and stuff like that first. And those instances are completely fine. I don't think fans are complaining about those instances with the mental health. Those all make sense. And but the things that fans are complaining about is, for example, the Kawhi Leonard situation, like you just brought up, the load management. Like players go through conditioning and players go through all this stuff at the beginning of the season. They train all the time. You shouldn't be feeling tired. You train for this. Like, marathon runners, like they train for marathons. You don't see them taking breaks in them. I know it's a different kind of thing, but like this is the kind of stuff that you train for at the beginning of the season, that you're going to play a long season and you got to be there for your team. And if you're a superstar, you got to set an example for the rest of your teams, like Kawhi Leonard. Like if some of the players in the Clippers, like, oh, Kawhi Leonard's not playing, like why should I play? Right? It sets a bad example for the team. And same thing for Kyrie. Like I'm a big Nets fan, but sometimes, I mean, he's one of my favorite players, and I just want to see him out there and play. I don't want to always look at the status report and see he's out for personal reasons. Like the first time he was out this year was because he was out for 2 weeks, and later it came out he was focused on his mental health. But then some videos got leaked of him partying at his sister's birthday party, and then I mean, like it's a different situation, and you should be playing in those kind of games. Now if it really was for mental health, then that's a different story. But I mean, if it wasn't, you're missing games to go ahead and party. Like you shouldn't be doing that, especially when you're getting paid this much, and especially when you're a role model and many younger kids look up to you and they see you skipping certain games, skipping work. What kind of influence did that have on them? But for injuries as well, like Kevin Durant, I understand. Like he's coming off an Achilles injury. It's a big time injury. You want to have him healthy for the playoffs, which matter the most. But other than that, I mean, I have to agree with you. There's certain instances where it's fine, and then certain instances where it's not.
I just want to say that, like, all I want are these athletes to be treated like normal employees for normal companies. Because if you work and you're not a professional athlete and your mother dies, or you're having mental health issues, then it's like perfectly okay for everyone to not go to work that day or not participate and focus on yourself. That's completely fine. But I see these athletes, and these aren't many of the up and coming athletes that are trying to secure the bag. It's these athletes that know they have the bag and don't really care anymore. And then, as you said, Shivam, they take advantage of these little things, and I think it screws over all these other players who do have mental health issues. Because if you're going to say that you have a mental health issue and then go to a party, you might have a mental health issue, but it just takes that credibility for other players and tarnishes it.
Yeah.
That's unfair to people who do suffer. And being in the spotlight, being in being always broadcasted, your every move is filmed. That's going to hurt your mental health, obviously. But you can't take advantage of your fans, your team, the league. And more importantly, you can't take advantage of these excuses.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, you just want the players to be treated like regular employees, and that's the problem. Like they're not. And I feel like the reason they are allowed to take so many personal days is because of the financial flexibility that they have. Like normal people, like normal middle class people, you can't just take days off for personal reasons. You might not even be able to take days off for mental health, because what if you take 2 weeks off, and what if you don't get paid for those 2 weeks? Many people just can't afford missing out on rent, missing out on putting food on the table for their family. They don't have the financial flexibility that all these people have. So they have a special kind of privilege in a way, and they're taking advantage of that privilege. And then, like you said before, people pay their hard-earned money to go watch these games. They're not even out there on the court.
Yeah, I definitely agree with how Dash put it, saying that they should be treated like people in a regular workforce. I feel like it's a good way to draw the line, because these people aren't. They're more privileged than everybody else, like Shivam said, and they shouldn't be doing certain things that they are doing. for their own personal reasons, like you said about Kyrie Irving going to his, you said it was some sort of party when he could be on the court playing. I think that is definitely Dash really summed it up well by saying they should be treated like regular people at work.